showed my mom the last episode, and she personally really likes the joke intros. So I think we're going to continue for. Oh, hey guys, how are you doing? This is welcome to Doodle Lounge. I'm James.
I'm Jeff.
I'm Donovan.
And we have a special guest.
I'm Fionn.
Fionn! And Fionn is a Fakemon artist that I found on Reddit. There's a, I think it was the Fakemon subreddit, I do believe I was perusing. And I found your art. At this point, I cannot remember which one I saw first, but it doesn't matter because I've had my eyes open to the whole world of your art since I found that. I immediately found you on Twitter, and I was like, oh my god, look at all this. It's so amazing. And I reached out, and luckily you were more than gracious and more than happy to join us here today, and I thank you so much for that.
Yes, thanks
so much for having me. Like, this sort of stuff is always so fun.
Yeah,
like, even like in terms of like different platforms and stuff, I always find that like I should post on Reddit more, because when I do, it always like gets very good feedback and stuff, but I like forget to do it as often as I do. I've only posted there like 2 or 3 times recently, and like all of those have done really well, but and like loads more people see my stuff than would otherwise, because every social media thing has its own bizarre kind of algorithm stuff.
Oh yeah,
like
we were just talking about
understand.
Yeah.
It's so arcane that it's like there's no way to know entirely what's happening, but sometimes some of them work better than others for like particular types of thing. We were talking about this a bit before even, but I have so many of these progress videos that I've never got around to posting most of.
And like you were saying, you have recently started posting on Reddit, which is where I found you, and thank goodness you did. But that was a stretch for you, because like I can see that, because like I'm mainly on Twitter, so it's easier just because it's already there.
It's always kind of like it's possible to hold like maybe 2 or 3 social media platforms in your head at any one time, and then after that it's like I don't know how, like
I couldn't agree more.
Exactly. It's just it can be a lot. So I mean, so everyone watching, the struggle is real. We get it. We are there with you. So I'm gonna be very, very biased, and I have to watch the Sandshrew and the Sandslash one. Sandshrew is my favorite Pokemon. So
do you know the pink fairy armadillo?
Yes.
It is just like the most impossibly cute thing in real life that I was like, oh, there needs to be like a Sandshrew form based on this. It's like it's the perfect kind of like fairy type alternate form for it. And I was like, what would be like the gimmick for it visually? And I wanted to combine it with geodes, because there's like that kind of like slight fluffiness that like armadillos have always kind of reminds me of like one of those like the inside of a geode that's like kind of where there's like bristles with all these little crystally bits. I did geology in college, so I have a lot of like fondness for like these kind of gems and stuff. That was a big part of it, and they're also just so fun to draw. Like after I did this, like I was like, okay, I'm just gonna add extraneous, crystal bits or ice bits into like 4 or 5 other Pokemon, because they're just that rendering that crystalline kind of stuff in the Pokemon style is so fun. Like this one's very obviously based on Carbink and Diancie and those kind of Pokemon that there's like this kind of trend that kicks in after maybe kind of Gen 6. The like rendering technology sort of improves. They're like, oh wait, we can like change the textures on these guys. Like you see it a lot in the new ones as well, where they're like they add in like a really fancy texture that they obviously couldn't have done in like Gen 3 kind of pixel art style, but like using that kind of medium as like new design space is really fun, and being like, okay, maybe with kind of Dragapult or Cursula, it's like maybe part of this Pokemon is transparent, or maybe it's like it fades out at one side.
Crystals I gotta say, you nailed this design. I almost like it more than the original Sandshrew design.
You shut your mouth. My Sandshrew is perfect. It's a perfect little baby.
But oh my goodness, you really did it justice. Like I would know exactly like that's Sandshrew, but it has an alternate version. I love the pink on it. It looks amazing.
Sandshrew is one of those Pokemon that I think they could do, if they did one of every type, I would be happy with all of them.
Oh yeah.
with like Meowth, like it's like Pokemon that keep getting new forms and they're all very enjoyable, and I think it really is like prime material for that kind of thing.
Given that Sandshrew has had a regional form, this thing is different enough. I can see this as a convergent species.
That's true as well. Yeah. I was thinking of it as the Pink Fairy Armadillo being like its main kind of inspiration, but there's also little bits of like, because when I was kind of working in the crystal, I was like, what sort of directions can I go with this in? And I sort of ended up kind of giving it almost like a mech pilot sort of exosuit sort of shape to it as well.
Yeah.
Because that's one thing I like about fairy types, sometimes go in kind of like a cool sci-fi alien direction with some of their stuff.
Very cool. Something that I want to bring up here. I love the crystals, first of all. But crystals in being drawn in almost any other style would be much more complex in like the way it's drawn, because there's so many like facets and stuff on it. But you've managed to do this in a way where it still clearly comes off as crystal, but is very simple. And I feel like that's a big component in Pokemon design. A lot of times more is less.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
yeah.
I'm very guilty of this whenever I'm like drawing a Fakemon. I feel like I always go a little too far. Did you find that to be a challenge when you were learning how to do all this? And if so, how long do you think it took you to kind of get a handle on when to actually stop?
That's a really tricky one, because like the basics of it is something that comes kind of naturally to me, in that I tend to draw in kind of like a fairly simplistic style. Generally, even when I'm drawing kind of other stuff, I'll like simplify stuff or just kind of do like a rough sketch and flesh it out from there. And then sometimes from the rough sketch, I'll be like, wait, this doesn't actually need any more detail. If I keep, this outline in just as that outline, it almost like sells it better than when I add those sort of realistic details. So that's kind of an element of it as well. The abstraction that at the start you do to save time, you can like look at the parts of that are like, that's actually kind of cool as like a sketch on its own, without my having added cool realistic textures or anything some of the time. There's nearly like a first thought, best thought for some of it, of like the loose sketch is loose enough. Sometimes that's kind of amount of details you want to keep, and kind of for every one you add after that, you could remove one to sort of keep it balanced. You'll add a few things to it, and then you're like, well, now the outline of this guy's got kind of complicated, which I was kind of able to do with Sandshrew a bit, because for every bit that you add, like the outline of it is already really simple. Like Sandshrew is just kind of 4 or 5 orbs stuck together. So it almost like its outline is just so spherical that just having a few kind of jutting out bits doesn't break it up too much. You can still kind of tell like, that's Sandshrew under there. That's
Yeah, absolutely.
Even with a silhouette test, you would be able to know that's Sandshrew.
I remember this being a great thing with the Alolan form of it as well. It's, you look at it and you're like, yeah, that could still probably work as a bowling ball.
Which I must say, I was disappointed with Alolan Sandshrew. Something about it was off for me. But I think this is why I wanted to talk about this one. You like this one so much more. It really makes up for Alolan Sandshrew for me. I love it. So.
It really does. Since we've been talking about Sandshrew for so long, because I mean, it is adorable. But the Sand Slash, when I saw that video, I was in awe. It was. Well, I'll let the video play out, obviously, and you can explain it again.
Yeah, so this is another kind of example of that. Like, you can kind of see what I'm doing with the edges here, of kind of making these really blunt spikes and then kind of like rounding them off even more as time goes on. It doesn't have the spines of regular Sandslash.
Mm-hmm.
It has those fairly realistic pangolin scales that look kind of very jagged and stuff, but here I'm kind of rounding them off even more than they are already rounded.
It's beautiful.
It's it looks like a bowl of jelly or something.
This is one of the Pokemon that I would want to like take a bite out of. It's rock candy. It's what it is.
It literally looks like you just carved gelatin, and it just has this nice solid form to it. It's really unique.
It was just like freshly sliced and then kind of wobbled back into that shape.
Yeah, I hope you don't mind, but I might steal this. No, I'm kidding. But I like I said in the Discord, I have been planning on making a Pokemon with like a crystal look to it. And I think it'd be a unique take on this Pokemon. I'm not going to ruin what it is, but...
Jeff's like, you made this? I made this.
No, but going back to the previous, Sandshrew little video clip, I was actually really fascinated with the same thing James brought up, how simple you keep it, but also the fact that you just do one line art sketch. You don't really have a secondary or third line art sketch. You just kind of go right off the rip. It's very fascinating. It's actually
I have
impressive.
some of these that you'll see that where they're kind of like, it's a lot easier with ones where it's a form of something where I already kind of know what pose I'll be making it in, because I usually try to, like when I'm making like something as a regional form for something, keep it in either the same pose or as similar to a pose as like it looks like it could do. So like in this case, it's easy to have it in this pose while still showing off kind of the changes in that. So I can be like, okay, these are going to be the Sandshrew parts I'm keeping, and then kind of filling in the rest with like big kind of lines and sweeps and stuff. But I have a few other ones where I don't know starting out what I'm doing, and then it's kind of finding the shape as I go along, where it's kind of like, what is the silhouette of this thing, and then what's a good pose for it to be in to show that silhouette.
Yeah, I totally get that. And you know what's another impressive thing is that very, very minimal black outline. And like, I think that is one of my favorite parts, because you fill it in with the, you know, different colors to outline it as well. I really like that. It's really nice.
Yeah, that's another thing that's very inspired by like the more recent generations of Pokemon do this more often with like
I've noticed.
Yeah, like Minior I always think is a great example of this.
Yeah.
The official art and its model in game are rendered with like different color lines than the kind of solid black they normally use. Like it's got this glow to all of the lines. It makes it look a little bit less physical or something. It's more kind of magical or something. It's a really interesting kind of effect achieved really simply just by, what if all the line art was dark yellow instead of black or something that makes it kind of pop a bit.
Yeah, definitely a lot more pop, and just add something a little extra.
I often find it's a good way to do that kind of less is more effect of, you know, when you want to kind of break up a shape, but you don't want to kind of put in a stark, you know, black outline that'll show up the whole way through. You can kind of give it these kind of darker pink lines breaking up the crystal from the skin and or from the fur, and the fur from the like undercoat kind of color.
It's definitely something that I'm going to start using more of. It's something that it's easily overlooked if you're not actually like looking for it or studying these designs, which I haven't recently. I'm definitely more of a fan of like the older Pokemon art. So I don't look as closely. I've looked more at the old art basically. Like I've had a lot more time with it to study it. So like the newer stuff, it's a little detail that unless you're looking for it, it really can be missed, but it does so much. It just pulls so much weight.
It really does.
Yeah, I think it conveys some of that, like the texturing they're able to do in more recent games and that kind of thing. And it's like an interesting, you know, thing of seeing how the like technology informs the sort of designs they're using as well. Especially if you look back at Gen 1 and 2 Pokemon, you can see they're limited by what the Game Boy and Game Boy Color will let you show on a palette. They're working with
blue.
like
like blue and lighter blue.
Pretty much all of the Gen 1 Pokemon are kind of a color and a less extreme version of that color, and the Gen 2 Pokemon are usually kind of two colors and then maybe like an accent color, but the three colors that make them up are usually like really kind of simple. Like there'd be brown, dark brown, and then you know there's like a white like glowy bit or markings or something like that, and then they add more complexity to the detail as time goes on, and then you know you end up with Pokemon that don't necessarily have more complex designs, but ones that have more complex kind of elements or renders in some of the more recent games as well. You can have something like Cerulege, where it's like, oh, it's that kind of fire is moving the whole time and they can kind of animate it that way, or Skeledirge, where like it has a little friend that's a little bird made of fire that kind of materializes in battle, and you know you don't necessarily see it all of the time. There's all these kind of little things they can add as the technology sort of moves forward.
There's one drawing of yours that I really liked, and because of our latest episode, I kind of want us to focus on that one just for like a little bit. Nincada.
Oh, yeah.
The fact that you mixed like this Hollow Knight kind of look to it.
Oh yeah, that and Shedinja were really fun.
It's kind of like the style swap video we just did, so I figured since you're our guest,
that's true. It's very on topic for that. Yeah.
So we can kind of take a look at that one. I love Nincada, and I love how your design came out. So yeah, let's give this a watch.
I haven't seen this one yet, so I'm excited now.
I did one of this, and I also did a Shedinja that's also based on Hollow Knight that would like evolve from this.
That's cool. That's cool. At first, I looked at it because I was like, oh, Ninkata, that's like one of my favorite Pokemon. And then I started seeing you drew the Hollow Knight horns, and I was like, is he really style swapping this right now? I gotta see this. It's really well done. I thought this was like one of my favorites.
So this is kind of designed as if it was a Hollow Knight enemy. Is that what I'm getting?
Yeah, it's mainly based on the player character, the knight itself, with using that color palette and elements from it.
That's cool. Yeah, I saw it on the list, and it did not click that it was Hollow Knight for me.
I didn't play a lot of Hollow
still
Knight.
Booting up in my brain.
It's a fantastic game, and it's an even more fantastic concept because it works so well with Ninkata.
Yeah.
It just blends so nicely, and I love the fact that you brought it all together in this.
You could probably see for a second there what I was doing with the shiny as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But yeah, that is a lot of fun. I keep meaning to do more kind of in a similar style to your style swap challenge thing of like Pokemon inspired by other things, like because it's a fun kind of idea of what if we incorporate this kind of thing but redo it as a Pokemon form. I've seen some really cool ones of that, various different designs incorporating different things.
Is your Shedinja the same? Like Hollow Knight inspired?
Yeah, it's
let's
like the
watch
evolution
that
of
one.
that. It's really fun. I love how this one came out. It's another rendering trick that ended up being really fun, was drawing the plague bubbles coming out from it.
Yeah, I saw that. That was really nice. It's obviously Shedinja. Like you can see that it's Shedinja, but you added just a little touch.
It felt so like in keeping with the theme as well, that it's Shedinja pretty much is just a vessel, like in the same way.
Yeah, I actually love these two designs, and I'm glad you actually did both of them. It's really unique. It's a nice little concept, and for everyone watching, this is the continuation of the style swap challenge.
Yeah, style swap part 2.
Part 2. Yeah, oh my gosh, I love these colors too.
Yeah, the colors are really crisp, and I like the contrast of them all. They just look so good. I almost like these colors better than the original Shedinja. Kind of wish.
Yeah, it kind of gives it like a ghost type
Yeah.
kind of look.
Absolutely.
I was thinking this type would be like Dark Ghost, which would be just like extremely funny for the like complete impossibility of fighting a Shedinja that was Dark Ghost type.
Those bubbles are so good. I love those bubbles.
Yeah, it's giving me like Dragon Ball, like the actual Dragon Ball thing. It looks.
Oh yeah, the
I just
actual
want to put
like,
a star in there, just an orange
crystal
star.
ball kind of thing.
Yeah,
yeah. That was one of those things. That was another thing I drew a few of, and then I was like, oh wow, this is so fun, and then like added them into a few different guys because I was like, yeah, these are great. Like I like drawing these designs a lot. These are really fun to render.
All right, which are the ones that did you guys want to look at? I know y'all mentioned a few of them.
Notable one for me,
Right
the
there.
Kabutops, Slowking.
Do we want to start with Slowpoke and work
Yeah,
our
we
way
could
up?
do the Slowpoke.
Yeah, the way that came together was quite fun.
This is a ghost Slowpoke, right?
Yeah. So the original concept I'd started with was cave salamanders, which there's like the Olm and the mud puppy. There's a few different cave salamander species, but they're all really weird. Like a lot of them, you can see their skeleton from outside because they're like they've lost all the pigment in their bodies. So I drew in the kind of basic skeleton of the guys. They also have all of these things, just really weird stuff with their metabolisms are so slow that I think there was one that didn't move for 7 years or something like this, and
Wow.
they can live for nearly 100 years and stuff
For
because
eternity.
they live on such a slow pace that time is different to them. But yeah, I felt like it was a good fit for Slowpoke because
Get
it
out
always
of here
reminded
with
me a bit of a
this.
salamander with its kind of carefree sort of attitude, and it's like, oh yeah, it can regrow like its limbs and things like that.
This
That's a
I didn't
brilliant
watch
concept.
this. I didn't watch this, and this is by far the coolest. I love this.
Right?
You know what it reminds me of? What's that Pokemon's name? Reunculus or what? Something like that?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Reunion.
Oh, I haven't finished it yet, but I've been working on a Reuniclus that is, it's based on mitochondria, and it's psychic electric type,
Oh.
and the like visual gimmick for it is that instead of 2 hands at the ends, it just has 2 more celoses.
Oh, cool. I like that.
It's connected to like extra little cells. It's like but yeah, that's another like it's always going to be a fun texture to draw, is like kind of see-through, gooey, ghostly, like ectoplasm kind of shape.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. This is so cool. And I like the ears. It's kind of, it gives me like Audino. I think that's the Pokemon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I based them on kind of salamander gills. That like a lot of
Okay.
the
Oh yeah.
those cave salamanders tend to like they retain their gills into adulthood, so they have this weird kind of like larval sort of look all their way through their lives.
So we're gonna move on to Slowbro now, because there's the Slowbro and Slowking I really want to talk about.
I want to hear these.
These are really fun, because I don't know if you can see it midway, but the point where I have changed my mind on what I was doing with this one. I was initially going to do that Slowpoke again, base it on that, give it like a really long tail like those cave salamanders have. And then here I was like, oh, wait a second. Like, it's not going to have shelter in a cave, so I might as well give it something else.
Oh, wow.
So I was like, okay, what if I give it like a helix fossil instead?
Yes.
Genius.
This is one of my favorites, because I still haven't forgiven Game Freak for not giving us a shelter evolution that looks like what's supposed to be on the end of Slowbro's tail.
Yeah, that is so strange. That's one of those like there's like a whole bunch of like I've actually been putting together a list lately of these, of like Pokemon that exist according to like the Pokédex or whatever, but like just as like future ideas to draw. It's like Pokemon that exist according to the Pokédex, but we've never seen, like like, you know,
I'm
like
actually
Baby Kangaskhan or like things like that.
Yeah, I'm actually doing that for my fan region. There's a lot of that. Like, I'm turning Baby Kangaskhan into a Prevo, and it explains the male side of the thing, and
yeah, Baby Kangaskhan, male Kangaskhan. Yeah, because there's like that's something that like one of the Pokédex entries is like, this is a like female Kangaskhan, and it's like, wait, like, are there others? Like, is there a male Kangaskhan? Like, they don't reproduce by cloning?
This is so good. Oh my gosh. I love the shell on the tail.
I like that the shell is white, like it's just the skeleton of the shell.
Yeah, like it's faded from being a proper Omastar. The Slowking kind of goes even further in that direction of I was like, okay, as a counterpart to the Slowbro, I want this one to have a dome fossil as part of it. And then I was like, okay, you know what, I'll like just stick it directly on top of the head, like Metroid style.
Nice.
And then give it those kind of glowing Kabuto eyes that are just kind of creepy in the funniest possible kind of way, of just like goofy version of a evil eye.
Oh my goodness. This is such a cool concept. This is like
I'm really
his head.
I'm really stuck on this idea of this particular Slowpoke evolving accidentally every time. Like, it's not its choice. Like, for some reason, I want this Slowpoke to be like the natural prey of Omati and Kabuto. And so if a Kabuto accidentally starts eating the head of a Slowpoke first, it evolves into Slowking, and vice versa. If a Omastar accidentally starts eating the tail first, it evolves.
Yeah, and they kind of accidentally benefited. You know, that thing of Team Rocket chopping off the tails of Slowpoke and selling them is like, they're doing it a favor. Now it's going to evolve into Slowking instead of Slowbro, which is definitely the better option.
Imagine a Slowking variant that doesn't have a tail because of that.
Oh no.
Oh wow.
They forgot to grow it back before evolving.
I don't know if you want to pick one, James, but I personally loved Garswamp.
Right here, this little fella.
Yes.
Let's do it. I want to look at this one too, actually. So.
Oh yeah, these guys were a lot of fun. This was for a commission, actually. These
oh, cool.
someone had pitched for a ground poison regional form of Gibble, and that line is just like, they're so kind of goofy and fun to play around with the kind of shapes of those, where it's like, it's the coolest Pokemon ever, and it's also a goofy blob of a kind of shark newt thing.
Yeah.
The same as with Dragapult and Greninja and a few more, where these are really big kind of like mainstays of like the competitive scene and stuff. In any other series, they'd be the silliest looking monster there. Like, this is a really cool dragon. It has awkward flappy fins and it's really blobby and
yeah, like the whole entire line is just so well done. And I like that you brought that up. It's very goofy looking design, but you did so much justice to it. Once again, you can tell right off the rip, it's Gibble, and it's a whole line. You could tell easily. But my personal favorite was definitely Garswamp. I mean, you knocked that one out of the park.
Yeah, Garswamp is really, since the
I love this face.
Yeah, there's a bunch of like early versions of Garswamp here that were just really fun. A lot of them are based on different kinds of like prehistoric amphibians. The whole like Dreepy family is based on some of those as well. But taking those as an example, a lot of them have these really goofy like head shapes, and they're put together in such kind of weird top heavy or front heavy ways that they're really fun shapes to draw. And using those kind of shapes in it feels like this is the swamp equivalent to the like land shark Pokemon.
Not only are you good with like the actual theory of like animal evolution, you're great at Pokemon theory as well, and you just incorporate it so well.
It's one of those interests that combine well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. After seeing your artwork, I just want to see more of it now. It's really fascinating.
Yeah, so we're gonna need you to start drawing a lot more now. I'm just
I'm to it.
I've been putting together like a load of ideas for next stuff I can work on, which like those are always so fun. It's always really fun to look back over like these progress videos and just be like, oh wow, all of these different tricks I was doing at the time and kind of didn't realize it, and it really helps to look over what bits of the process work in particular ways.
Totally.
Especially looking back at like, oh yeah, like doing that little trick saves a lot of time, or this thing is actually way more fun than I expected. Or
the salamander aspect to these guys really screams convergent evolution for me. Like they almost would pass as a convergent species.
Yeah,
they can really work that way as well. I suppose it depends what what they intended Garchomp or Gibble to be in the first place.
As you were drawing that, the first initial reaction I got the first time I watched it, I was like, is he making this a chameleon now? And then I was like, but it would work though.
One of my favorite Monster Hunter monsters is the like Chameleos, which is just a really big goofy chameleon dragon.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. That is a goofy monster.
It's so good. Like
I haven't played in a while.
Chameleon dragons are so like underrated as a direction to go in with that kind of thing.
We showcased a lot of Fionn's work. I feel like it's up to you now if you want to.
Yeah, I
talk
suppose.
about
Let's
more.
see. A recent one, I suppose it's pretty interesting, would maybe be the Golduck one. Is a pretty fun line. So the initial like, this was a pitch I'd started on ages ago. What if there was like a Galarian Psyduck, and I'd kind of designed one to be a pure psychic type, and its trick is, instead of being a proper duck, it's not waterproof, and it uses its psychic powers to float above the water so it doesn't get wet.
Interesting.
Then someone actually commissioned me to finish out that line, because they're like, oh, that's a great idea. Do a Golduck and a regional evolution. So yeah, I ended up making a regional evolution for it called a Senduck, which is, they were like, okay, do one that's like, do like the expanding brain meme basically, but in like Pokemon form. I was like, oh my god, this is such a fun concept.
Genius.
Like, I can't wait. And yeah, it's so fun. They're based on the eider duck. Like that's where the coloration of the like Psyduck part of it started with, because their feathers used to be used to make pillows. I was like, okay, well, what if it's so covered in eider down that it needs to keep itself dry at all times? So like, unlike normal Psyduck, which is not really psychic but kind of is, but is perfectly fine in the water, this one is really psychic but it can't touch the water at all. So it spends all its time levitating, and it's kind of in this like dream state to keep itself above the thing.
That
because
is
it's
so
like,
unique.
Like it's kind of like a a pillow that has its own dreams is kind of the own like.
I
like
love
the
that it looks so
narrative of it.
tranquil and like, at peace and zen, as opposed to like
exactly.
regular
I was like, okay,
Golduck.
this one should have kind of like a yoga pose. Or it's become one of those levitating monk kind of characters. And then as it goes on, then it becomes like a Sendok, which is what if it was that, and then just next level, like its brain is expanded, its horizons have expanded, it has awakened like dream projections and can see the world around it without even looking. And it's a very fun concept of one of those Pokemon that kind of always existed and had that sort of potential, but just hasn't been explored yet, and that they haven't done much with Psyduck since it, which feels like a kind of weirdly missed opportunity. Like,
yeah, definitely.
I think I remember seeing at one point they considered making Let's Go Psyduck at one point, and then they were like, okay, more people probably know Pikachu and Eevee, but I would have loved to see if they give Psyduck like different new HMs just for Psyduck and different Psyduck forms. Imagining Psyduck getting like the Pikachu treatment would be so funny.
Yeah.
Those kind of deliberately underwhelming Pokemon are always just very impressive.
Yeah, always the best to like, try different things with.
Yeah, exactly. And it's probably why they keep going back to things like Slowpoke and Meowth. It's always like a perfect kind of comedy angle to play with most of them, where it's like there's always funny ideas you can do with each of those.
I love this design. It's kind of reminding me like if you fuse Golduck and Mega Alakazam together.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's kind of the vibe of thing I was thinking of Mega Alakazam and like Mega Medicham, where the psychic types tend to go for that kind of gray alien kind of like impossibly big brain, like kind of shapes. They're like, where do you work out? At the library kind of thing. Of like, this guy's seen it all.
Yeah,
become
this is
omniscient through the power of using Psych Up 500 times in battle. Which, I mean, that's probably what it would be. Like, that would be the evolution method, is use Psych Up. Like, a lot of the regional evolutions are something like that.
Your artwork is amazing, my friend. This was a blast to see your just
thank
everything.
You so much. Anytime. It's really fun looking back over some of this stuff and be like, oh, that's what I was going for. I forgot all about this one. Yeah.
What was I doing here? Oh yeah.
Yeah, like sometimes I can see that I just start throwing shapes out there and then trying to assemble them into like a recognizable creature. And then sometimes I'll be like, okay, I've nailed it down to it's something between these two versions. And then I put them together and try and fuse in my head, or like try and work out what's the exact midpoint of these two creatures. Like it's something like that, right?
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, this has all been very cool.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely were a really, really fun like guest to show up. Like, of all the people I could have imagined, I did not expect to have so much content like in just one video.
Right.
Okay. Thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you so much, Fionn, for joining us and just sharing all of your knowledge and your art with us. We really appreciate that, and also saving us from drawing in this episode. You really saved us some work.
Yeah, it definitely
Having it
did.
done in advance always helps.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll have all of our links will be in the description. Discord, all of our Twitters, including Fionn. Fionn, any other social medias you want us to share, let us know. They'll be down in the description. Please follow them wherever you can. Keep up with their art and their game, and it is a wild ride. That's all I can say. It's a joy, absolute joy.
It was a joy. It was awesome. Thank you
so
for
much.
being a guest on.
It's
Yeah.
really fun.
And also don't forget to join our Discord. It's down in the description. We currently have a contest going on for missing link Pokemon, as in drawing some Pokemon line that's missing a form that you think you can fill in, additional evolutions, pre-evolutions, all that counts. It's running through this month, and the winner gets a $20 e-card for Steam, Switch, PlayStation, Xbox, whatever you play. $20 for the winner. So we're super excited. We have a great community there. Feel free to check us out there. Don't forget to like and subscribe, all that YouTube stuff. I didn't forget it this time to the last second. So.
Nice.
All right, we'll catch you guys in the next episode.